What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. It is a heat wave in England. I'm not used to this. Really not used to this. You know, even when I go to places like Spain or the United States, the heat there just seems different. Like the heat here, when it hits differently. It's not the same. And I guess the subconscious thing is like when you're going away, you expect it to be hot. When England is always cold and then it's hot out of nowhere and there's no in between, kind of hits differently. But you know, maybe I shouldn't complain. As a Brit, I tend to talk about the weather. We all talk about the weather. We talk about how cold and rainy it is, and then when it's hot, we complain about that too. So I guess you can't win sometimes. But anyway, the opinion you should follow should always be your own. Please consider this to be an opinion from a complete stranger online. Please be responsible when competing in the market. So, Oleksandr USYK and Daniel Dubois are going to be squaring off soon. They're going to be squaring off soon, and I noticed when I was on Paddy Power that it is a power price, but Oleksandr USYK is only 4-1 on. Oleksandr USYK is only 4-1 on to win. Despite being the former undisputed heavyweight champion of the world and the current unified heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel Dubois is 3-1 against. Many people would be looking at that and thinking, you know, Daniel Dubois, that's some good odds on Daniel Dubois. And some people may even say Daniel Dubois has a good chance of winning. You know, the reason why I think these odds are so close, closer than maybe the armchair boxing fan might have expected, you know, is because Oleksandr USYK, how old is he, like 37? Oleksandr USYK is 37 years of age. Oleksandr USYK has shown visible decline. You know, he's still a top level operator, but he's not the same fighter that fought Anthony Joshua, what was it, back in 2020? He's not the same fighter that beat Anthony Joshua the first time or even the second time. He is declining. You know, his sharpness has decreased. His coordination has decreased. His agility somewhat has decreased. He looks a little less sharp and more lethargic now. Now, don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. Oleksandr USYK is still a top operator, but his use of the southpaw angles are not what they once were. He used to spin people Lomachenko style, so that by the time, you know, he would have his right lead foot on the outside of the orthodox's left lead foot, and he was able to use this exit strategy and almost push at the orthodox's lead left hand, spin off it, and by the time you know, your head would be off his line. You wouldn't, in other words, you wouldn't even be looking at him. And by the time, you know, you would turn, you'd literally have to turn your head to be facing him once he did that. And by the time you were able to turn and face him, he'd already shoot the straight left hand or the looping left hand, and you essentially would be catching a backhand. So Oleksandr USYK was very, very sharp. He still knows what he wants to do in there, but he's not quite as sharp as he used to be, I've noticed. Whereas Daniel Dubois, on the other hand, is really coming into his own. You know, since these two obviously are having a rematch, but since the first fight where Daniel Dubois noticeably quit, Daniel Dubois went on to fight Jarrell Miller in a win or go home bout. That was basically Frank Warren saying, no tune-ups, you're going to go in there and sink or swim. And Daniel Dubois swam. He beat Jarrell Miller and then went on to fight Filip Hrgovic in a fight many people were expecting Hrgovic to win. He beat Filip Hrgovic, and then they put him up against Anthony Joshua, who people were expecting him to beat again. I was one of them. I thought it was closer than most people were making out, but I thought if anyone was going to win this, it was Anthony Joshua, maybe on the 60% scale. And he went and beat Anthony Joshua in devastating fashion. Made it look easy. So Daniel Dubois is riding the crest of a wave. Oleksandr Usyk is, I would say, on the tail end of his wave, win, lose or draw this fight. I honestly think Oleksandr Usyk should have bowed out after beating Fury third time. There's only so many times that you can go to the well in life and not get stung. You know, you can be one of those people where God has given you fortune. You're signed off on your fortune, you know. I'm just getting my water. You know, I'm not saying, you know, you put the work in combined with God seeing favor in you and everything just seems to go your way. But history shows that, you know, eventually God will kind of check you and say, hey, you know, I've given you all this fortune, but you come to the well too many times. And now it's time to, you know, kind of show you the hard knocks of life. Sometimes God will do that. Sometimes God will show you the hard knocks of life if you go to the well too many times. And so Oleksandr Usyk is unbeaten. Oleksandr Usyk is 37 years of age. Oleksandr Usyk is slowing down. For me, after beating Fury a second time, that was the time to bow out. But he hasn't. He's stuck around. He's 37 years old. And I strongly suspect he's not going to be better in this rematch. I think he's going to be worse. It's a case of, has he got enough left to still beat Daniel Dubois, who I think will be better than the first fight. So this is how I see it. I think that Usyk, who is 4-1 on, will be worse in the rematch. And I think Daniel Dubois is very likely to be better, who's at 3-1 against. And so this is why I think that the odds are the way they are, even at a power price, because I believe that Oleksandr Usyk is on the way down. And I think young, hungry lions, for example, like Daniel Dubois, are on the way up. There's only so many times you can do this, you know, until something goes wrong. Look at Muhammad Ali, for example. Carried on too long, you know. So anyway, let me know what you think. In summary, I believe that the odds are the way they are due to a decline in Oleksandr Usyk that hasn't quite brought itself to the forefront yet. Like, he hasn't lost, so people aren't really talking about it. And Daniel Dubois is on the way up, and that's why I believe the odds are the way they are. This just very quickly reminds me of Tyson Fury. I'm not trying to be arrogant. Life is about being humble. But I do recall mentioning a few times that Tyson Fury was slowing down, especially with his foot speed, and people weren't really picking up on it because he was unbeaten and he was still winning. And then I believe that was a factor in him losing to Usyk the first time. So people don't tend to talk about these things until a fighter starts losing, but I do see a decline in Oleksandr Usyk. Anyway, let me know what you think about what I spoke about here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. With that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one. For exclusive content, subscribe to me on Patreon. For just $3 per month, you'll gain access to exclusive content for a wide range of topics, such as travel, human psychology, sports, and more. There's no contract and you can cancel at any time. So become part of the community on Patreon today. The link is in the description.